Hey guys, Chris, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about Aikatsu Planet. I've been pretty silent on this series, partly because I was waiting for an announcement, and I didn't want to cover it if the season or the anime wasn't complete. Now that I know we're going to have a movie eventually, I can safely say these 25 episodes are the narrative and are a complete story. So I want to look at Otohamao and give you guys my thoughts on her as a protagonist. Mao is introduced to us selecting a ribbon from a shop. Here we see her with her best friend Shiori, who will be at her side for the rest of the story. The two girls walk toward a performance of Hinata Mesa as the top idol, Hana. She stands entranced as she watches, before bumping into Mesa herself. That's the moment that Mao's journey truly begins. She says to herself,
私はまだ気づいていなかった。あの時すでに私の運命が静かに。
Once the girls are at school, we see that Mao is known as a great dancer and that she's also interested in trying out new things. Very Mirai-like. While she's teaching her classmates to dance, Izumi, who is Mesa's former manager, spots her. There's something about Mao's dancing that reminds Izumi of Mesa's earlier self. Thus, with Mesa gone, Izumi decides to make Mao the new Hana. Now, just as a base for the main character, I really like this beginning. We know what her talents are, we have a slight grasp of her personality. We've already introduced Shiori, who will be her helper for most of the initial episodes, and we've set up a connection between Mesa and Mao, not only by having them bump into each other, but also by having Izumi compare Mao's current self with Mesa's past self. It's a really good start. Throughout the remainder of the first few episodes, Mao learns about modeling, acting, and just how hard it's going to be to make it to the top. I appreciate that they don't shy away from making her lose in these early episodes. It's actually quite necessary to show her struggling and to make it clear that the other characters are competent and a genuine threat. It makes it seem all the more worth it when she does succeed in the end. While she does beat Ruri early on, she loses to Kyoko, a more seasoned idol, as well as Cupid, who was Hana's original rival. Now, about Mao taking on the avatar Hana, I will admit that I wish it was magical, but I guess it's fine that it was very basically just giving her the card and the phone. It's okay, I don't really mind, but I was just expecting the magical sound in that scene to mean something. Mao is spending her time pretending to be Hana, trying to live up to the idea of the top idol, but in episode 4, where she meets Kyoko, Kyoko lets her know that she should just be herself. While we don't find this out later, Mao wasn't necessarily fooling everyone, as even in episode 1, some of her fans ended up leaving because the new Hana just wasn't the same to them. This ties into one of the show's major themes, which is identity. Beat and Hana explore this the most, with Beat being a rock persona for the usually straight-laced Kyoko. It's for this reason that I think the mirror was an excellent choice thematically, and I think that it shows that the theme of identity was always at the center of this show. But now it's time to focus on the next part of Mao's journey. Once Mao embraces being her own kind of Hana, she really starts to grow. She's able to beat Beat in episode 8 and announces her real identity in episode 10. She does this with her childhood friend Shiori at her side. I really like the bond between these two because she's known the secret from the start. The two are willing to do anything for each other and are often on the same page. Shortly after, Mao acquires a new Dressia Pureful Phoenix. This happens in episode 12 after she reflects on how much she's grown. I also think it's really important that in this episode, we see her have a sleepover with her friends, showing how they support her. With her points having been reset after the Hana reveal, she's gonna have to work really hard, working up from 0. It's a rebirth, hence the phoenix. Now that Mao is reborn, she is ready to face her rival Cupid. Cupid is a great rival for Mao because while Mao was at least somewhat lucky, Cupid works really hard consistently and often pushes herself past her limits. The rivalry this season is between Mao, Ayumi, and Mesa. I think Mesa and Ayumi are two different parts of Mizuki. Mesa takes the prodigy, top idol part, and Ayumi represents Mizuki's work ethic. A lot of this reminds me of the original 2 seasons, and that's probably because they had the same director. Mesa makes her return once Mao is about to face Cupid. Mesa shows Mao that she shouldn't just focus on being perfect, and there's a lot more to Cupid's charm than just perfection. With this, she tells Mao to find out what's most important to her, and eventually Mao focuses on making each moment shine. I will admit, at first I found this answer really odd. I was expecting her to say something about being true to herself, but I guess it makes sense because once she beats Cupid, she says she was just thinking of being happy with her fans, so maybe it's something to do with being in the moment. Her relationship with her fans has come up multiple times, she gives them advice, and she genuinely wants to connect with them. So I personally think that's why she gave that answer. With Cupid defeated, it's going to be time for Hana to face the original Hana. In Pajama Party Night, we get to see how Mao measures up to Mesa. It's a fight she's guaranteed to lose since we're only in episode 16, but it does offer her a chance for some introspection. This episode adds a lot of agency to Mao's character as, up until now, she seems to be someone who got really lucky and managed to coast by on someone else's success. She was handed the top idol spot, and that gave her access to auditions she didn't really deserve. It's really easy to assume it's all been given to her. But in this episode, Ruri reminds us that Mao's dancing is what caught Izumi's eye. In a way, she's been actively working toward her dreams, despite all the help she's gotten. It reframes Mao as a slightly more active character who intends on making her dreams a reality. After Mao's loss to Mesa, we gear up for the end of the story with the Planet Princess Grand Prix. This is where Planet's writing really shines for me. I think that the matchups here were all really well thought out, and while we didn't get to see Anne or Sarah really do anything, or Sala, however you want me to pronounce it, I would love to cover this specific tournament in more detail. To enter the final tournament, Mao needs to face Shiori. This is the girl that's been at her side since childhood. Throughout the show, Shiori's kept her identity a secret, helped her train, and been her best friend. Having to face her meant not just that she'd be responsible for Shiori's loss, but it wasn't possible to have any other opponent. Izumi had tried really hard to get them other opponents, but Shiori decided that that wasn't what she wanted. Shortly after this matchup is announced, Shiori decides that she's going to avoid Mao until their battle. She wants Mao to give her a serious challenge. Mao is pretty confused, but Shiori's flashback gives us some insight. In the past, Mao and Shiori auditioned for a play, and while Mao was gonna get it, she dropped out to give Shiori the role. Shiori is worried that Mao's gonna give her the win, and she wants to be taken seriously. The two girls sit down to talk and admit they've both been jealous of each other in the past. Despite that, their minds are often in the same place, and that's why for this performance, they both decide to perform a new song. Soulmate's probably one of my favorite songs from the season. The country vibe is really different, and I appreciate the lyrics. In all honesty, this was the best way for Shiori to lose to Mao, and I'm really proud of how they handled this episode. It makes the loss feel a lot more emotional, and it's a gentle way of letting down her best friend. For one of them to succeed, the other will have to fail. The final hurdle Mao has to face is the girl who started this all, Mesa. Mao's journey began precisely because Mesa left Hana behind, so it makes sense for her to be the final rival. The final battle usually really makes or breaks Aikatsu seasons for me, so I was really anticipating this episode. Mao's learned to be an idol, lost a lot, and she's had to face her friends. She's taken lessons from her rivals and made amazing friendships on the way. Throughout this journey, Mao and Mesa have come to be really good friends. I didn't cover Mesa's return too much, but she's been a pretty friendly, relaxed rival who gives advice to Mao. Mao even helped her plan the party for her new avatar. Now, Mesa's here to face her as Rose. The Dressia battle goes to Mesa, but miraculously, Aurora Pegasus evolves, and Hana is crowned the winner. Aikatsu Planet is really short and sweet. It manages to tell a complete story with 8 characters in just 25 episodes. Mao did have to grow a bit fast, but I'm really okay with this win. I think that each win that Mao got toward the end made a lot of sense. You know, with the improvised dancing when facing Cupid, and the fact that she beat Shiori in that way, as well as Aurora Pegasus evolving in the middle of the performance. Nothing about the tournament really happened the way I expected it to, but I still think Mao deserved to win. Her growth was consistent throughout the different mini-arcs, and they gave her unique problems to solve at each stage. I really enjoyed her as a protagonist, and while we do know a movie is coming up, I'd be quite happy to see Mao continue to grow in a season 2. This video is a bit different than what I usually do, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time.